morning and welcome to Dog Days, where we talk about all things cannabis. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Holly B. I'm so happy to have Miss Faye Berger Mitchell back in the doghouse. Faye is a registered and licensed dietitian. She earned her MCST degree in 2022. Faye is taking the skills and knowledge she acquired in her nutrition private practice consulting career and is now applying them in the cannabis space. And welcome back to the doghouse, Miss Faye. It's great to see you. How have you been?
Thanks for having me, Holly. Good to see you again. I've been good. Things are moving along here.
Nice. I like that. I'm going to also introduce everybody to, I have my co-host with me today as well, Mr. Bill Fuchs with Ethereal Gold Dispensary in Wisconsin. So good morning, Bill. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good. I hear Faye was having some problems with her refrigerator this morning. Of all days, it's August, middle of August, and her refrigerator pooped out on her. So I feel for you this morning, Miss Faye. Thank you for joining despite.
Sure. The show must go on, as they say.
I'm feeling you on that one. So you have been a guest with me in the past when we were on Military Broadcast Radio, and I'm having you back on because now you're really affiliated with Americans for Safe Access, which is an amazing organization. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, let's give our new listeners on this platform some background information as to who you are, where you're coming from, how did you get in the cannabis field. I'll give the floor to you, Miss Faye.
Thanks, Holly. Well, I got into the cannabis field through for professional reasons. So personally, I had some surgery, and this was in 2016, and it created appetite loss and weight loss, and I really was not doing well. So medical cannabis had become legal in Maryland. My brother suggested I give it a shot. I did. I started using cannabis, and it helped me regain my appetite and regain my weight. And honestly, I don't really use it that much anymore. So I used it medically when I needed it, and I'm to the point where I don't, which I'll use it if I have a sleep issue, but it's not that often. So, I think it's important people know that it's, for some people, it's an all medicine, and that's great, and it works well. And sometimes it can be a short-term medicine. So I found that, I'm in the healthcare business. I am a dietitian, but I really wanted to help people with medical cannabis in the same way that I was helped. And that's why I went to the University of Maryland program. And my goal was to really coach patients and help them find the correct medicine, the correct dosage, the correct delivery method. And that's why I went into the program, to learn all the specifics. I did work in a dispensary for a year before I went into that program. And I just love working with patients, and I love helping people. So, I did start this consulting business, and I'll be really honest with you, it's sort of been sort of a no-go. And it's been a little bit disheartening, but what I'm as the states I went are turning to adult use recreational cannabis, the medical market is just being left behind. There's just not being any attention given to the medical market. And so that's to become involved with Americans for Safe Access. And I'm a volunteer advocate. And I feel like if we can get legislation passed at the federal level, then there will be more medical programs that open up. There will be, there'll be a place for me in this space. So yeah, that's kind of where I am right now with my sort of business that's not really going great. I will admit, if anybody needs coaching or counseling, I'm here, and I do it by Zoom. And, I'm working to get it, passed at the federal level and passed appropriately with the right legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel you on that one. We were talking a little bit before the show started. We're like time travelers. We have this education that to be medical cannabis experts in the field. When people aren't maybe ready for that kind of expertise yet, And once the hoopla of the, adult rec kind of filters out and maybe loses some of that novelty, because it's a new toy in some of these places, oh, wow, it's legal finally. And then once it becomes normalized and people see the medicinal value of it, and I really kind of see people, I'm going to tell my age here, but I'm 50 years old, so I'm kind of beyond the like party scene and stuff. I'm more of the, what can this do to help me either heal or relax or, deal with the little pops and quirks and stuff. You wake up out of bed and things are popping and creaking now. And it freaks me out. But
Oh, yes.
It's been like that since 21 for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while for me.
But, folks our age are becoming Canna curious. And so I think once it loses its novelty, our business is going to boom for you, Miss Faye. I can feel it. I can see it. Don't lose the faith.
Let's hope. Let's hope. No, it's funny. The other day I was like getting my hair done, and all these people were like, "Oh yeah, I have a medical card. I have a medical card," but they don't go to anybody. They do go to the dispensary, and the dispensary agents are knowledgeable, but not as knowledgeable as we are. We know about medical interactions and medicine, with medicines, and just a little bit more about what's appropriate for what.
Yeah, we know how to kind of help you fine tune what you're looking for.
Exactly.
And how to get you the results that you're looking for. What are your thoughts on all this, Mr. Bill? You are a Mr. Dispensary owner. You have bud tenders under your care.
So, yeah, ironically, we also switched from business to business to consumer and started the dispensary because of an injury. And I hated Oxy. I can't take Vicodin. It makes me motion sick. I hated Oxy. Tried it 2 nights. Had to sleep sitting up on a couch for 2 months. And finally went to my surgeon, and that's how we got started in it, because he's the one who mentioned try Delta 8 or Delta 9, but make sure it's tested properly. And even though we've been in industry or working in the tech side of it for many years, we didn't really dive that deep into testing until then. So we contacted over 150 manufacturers and over 25 labs over a course of 4 months. And as a group, we voted, and we went to retail using testing standards as the highest testing standard in the nation. We have complete full panel tests for everything. And I'm wondering if there might be a way that you could even take advantage of the hemp market right now when you're getting getting challenges with the med scene, because I want to say 40% of our customers are looking for something on the health and wellness side, with either sleep, as you mentioned, or inflammation or pain relief, anxiety. And there's different cannabinoids that we can connect them with, but there's always questions on dosing. And then if you can cover some of the potential questions and answer, for example, are you aware of any studies where how are the effects of CBG and ibuprofen? Can you take them together? Do you have to stagger them? Or is it like a Tylenol and ibuprofen thing where if you aren't careful, you have liver damage? And that's a personal question, because I've been doing research on it, because I janked my hamstring the other day, and I've been playing pickleball on it. And it's fortunately the CBG and ice and ibuprofen have been helping. But I'm thinking, it'd be really nice if I had someone in the medical profession or associated with the medical profession that could answer that question. I haven't found a study on CBG and ibuprofen yet.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a need. It's just finding that right niche and where to step in.
Exactly. And, I talk to doctors, and what I do is I use a drug tracker, and I look at each thing individually. I look at the patient's medications, and I have had patients that I've worked with, but, problem being, as you said, we can't find the research. Sort of segues into the access, because it becomes legal federally, then there more research opportunities open up. It's easier to research, because right now it's even if it's illegal, how are they going to research if it's illegal to obtain cannabis? So, yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering. Maybe there may be a way for you to actually, get more traction just starting with the hemp market, because the thing that's advantageous about hemp is, for majority of the cannabinoids, especially on the health and wellness side, you can ship to all 50 states.
Yeah, then that's true. I mean, and I do sometimes, I either order for patients or I tell them where to order,
Mhm.
but to me, it's all wrapped in one. And
Right.
like, yeah, I mean, so like, it's not separate from medical cannabis. It is medical cannabis.
Mhm.
And it's just sometimes that little touch of THC helps the efficacy of the
Mhm.
CBD and all the other cannabinoids in the hemp.
Yeah,
So,
the entourage effect is a
exactly.
actual thing. Yeah, it really
Exactly.
is. I was just thinking hemp just because, I mean, honestly, it's cannabis,
Mhm.
because the only reason we have hemp and marijuana is the government said so.
Right.
That's
Right.
There is no such thing as hemp and marijuana in the plant community. It's just, and as you're
Right.
mentioning education and such, we've lost 20 some thousand years of education due to the war on drugs and the whole campaign, which is another topic for another show. But
Exactly.
that is one that more harm and damage has been done to not only individuals but entire communities because of what the direction the government and the media took.
Exactly.
And we still have so much misinformation out there and misperceptions that it's very challenging. And then the other problem we have in the industry is there's still a number of bad players that need to get cleaned out, that are out there for a money grab. They think it's the gold rush. And for those of us that are deep into it, it is definitely not the gold rush. We all have,
Which again,
yeah.
yeah, which again, I will pipe in with the Americans for Safe Access. Be part of our lobby are geared toward safety. If you have a federal regulation that requires a certificate of analysis and requires certain safety standards, then we're kind of eliminating that issue,
Mhm.
and so that's kind of a big piece of the bill that we're trying to get passed as well, or the
No,
reason it needs to have, federal regulations.
and that's how we set up. That's our whole philosophy. And the reason we're in the industry is we require a complete full panel COA for every product and cannabis product we sell, and every batch, which is a big kicker from the manufacturers,
Yeah.
because they only
Right.
spot check. And what a complete full panel certificate of analysis gets, for those that don't know, is you have tests not only for potency, but also for pesticides, solvents, heavy metals, mycotoxins, microbials, and other contaminants that A, can ruin your experience and consistency, which we see often, and B, some could be fatal. I mean, we actually had a cultivator out of Kentucky call us a couple of years ago and want to know if we knew anybody that could extract arsenic from his cannabis.
Oh
And you're
my
like,
word.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's out there, and he didn't legally. What's ironic is he did not have to do. He could have sold it as is. He could have passed the test for the government.
See, I'm lucky in Maryland. In Maryland, they do require that, and so I've been,
MedRec
yeah,
states, a lot of them are going that way, which is the right direction.
and so I'm spoiled in that. So yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, great conversation, everybody. I love this. This is good stuff. We're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, we're going to roll our sleeves up, and Miss Faye is going to give us an ASA, Americans for Safe Access update. So stay tuned.
Ethereal Gold Dispensary, the best kept secret around. Legal cannabis, mushrooms, and more straight to your doorstep. Each product is meticulously tested, setting the ethereal gold standard nationwide. And we're not just in it for the greenbacks, folks. We honor our troops and veterans with a special discount. Plus, 2% of every purchase goes to local charities. Visit etherealgolddispensary.com and use the code RADIOHIGH for 15% off. Enjoy yourselves, my friends.
All right, and we are back. We are chatting with Miss Faye Berger Mitchell, and she is going to give us a very thorough what is happening with the American Safe Access movement. Go ahead, take it away, Ms. Faye.
Yes, thank you. Americans for Safe Access is very busy and really, they've been fighting the fight for 20-some years. So they've been involved with legalization of cannabis. Anyway, so we know that for the first time ever, some top health authorities in the country agree that cannabis has medicinal value. So that's huge. I mean, that's like a huge step in the right direction. And that includes the Food and Drug Administration and the Health and Human Services. And so there was a bill drafted, and it was open for public comment. It was a couple months ago. When something's drafted like that, it was open for public comment, and it was drafted by executive order. The public comment section has now closed, and so now it's in the hands of the DEA. And here's what the sort of specifics are. Right now, as probably you've talked about, the current scheduling of cannabis is Schedule 1. And there are different categories that drugs are scheduled in. Schedule 1 means there's no accepted medicinal value and it has a high potential for abuse, which we all know is not true. And actually, this is a bipartisan issue, which is a rare thing in this country these days. So, the recommendation that has been proposed in this bill is to schedule to a Schedule 3, which would mean moderate to low potential for physical and psychological abuse. But an example of one of those drugs would be Tylenol with codeine. And we still don't think that that's where medical cannabis fits. So it just doesn't meet the patient's needs, and it doesn't make sense for a number of reasons, because it doesn't really fit into this current scheduled category, since it's not a pharmaceutical, it's a plant. So you really can't, it's not an isolated compound. Drugs go through a specific criteria in order to get approved, in order to become a drug. And because cannabis and other herbs have multiple compounds within them, rescheduling will still leave medical cannabis laws inconsistent between the states and the federal regulations. And, why is this important? We know that medical cannabis has helped so many people, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people when other treatment options have failed. So, they've tried it for various things, as we know, pain, anxiety, PTSD, sleep, and cancer, appetite, all kinds of problems. And it generally has less side effects than the drugs that are, the traditional pharmaceuticals. So, this working to get a federal legislation passed will give us consistent medicine at the national level. So your dispensary in your state will have the same standards that my dispensary in my state will have. And it will also help with safety standards, as you were talking about earlier, Bill. Now we can have research, because currently, if it is illegal, how are you going to obtain cannabis to study in order to do research? So it sort of creates a barrier there. We want access for all. Right now, federal employees cannot use medical cannabis because it's federal illegal. I live in Washington, D.C., outside of Washington, D.C. A lot of my friends cannot use it because they work for the federal government.
Yeah.
Same with veterans. Veterans cannot use it because it's not federally legal. So they're breaking the law. And if they want to be employed by any federal government agency, then they can't use it. Even if a employer gets any kind of federal funding, even college, educational institutions, they cannot use it because they're going to test before they can start. This will really open up accessibility for a lot of people. Hopefully, we're hoping it will also increase affordability. Potentially down the road, we can have insurance reimbursement for this medicine, which it is a medicine. And hopefully clinicians can bill for services when they're talking about medical cannabis and when they're recommending medical cannabis. So there's a lot of situations in which we really need this to happen, and we need it to happen correctly. So what what the Americans for doing is we're working to create a comprehensive medical cannabis program. And there are a number of sort of pieces of the bill that we feel is very important. And one of them is that they are proposing the OMC, that the government create an entirely different agency that regulates medical cannabis. And they would be calling that the OMC, or the Office of Medical Cannabis and Cannabinoid Control. And they also feel it would be a really good idea to have a separate schedule. Let's add a Schedule 6 to the scheduling system, because, like we said, it's not a compound. It's not an individual isolated compound. There are numerous compounds within this wonderful plant. And by the way, herbal medicines could also fall under this schedule. I know a lot of herbalists who have the same problem. And so there are very few herbal medicines that are even recognized by the federal government. So those are some of the things that we're working on. We've launched right now, this is the important thing right now, if you want to get involved, and this is something, if you're passionate about this, which I am, the Americans for Safe Access has launched a compassionate candidate campaign. And you can see it at the screen pulled up right now. And so right now, like I said, our reps are at home, and we want to go to a town hall, ask them what their positions are on medical cannabis. Not put them on the spot, but ask some really pointed question. And there are tools on this website to help you do that. So, election cycle right now, as we all know. If you don't, you're hiding under a rock these days. But this campaign provides candidates the 458 congressional races in the 2024 election. We want them to express commitment to policies that improve the lives of medical cannabis patients. We want them to have a platform for voters to learn more about where they stand on medical cannabis issues before they vote November 5th. We want to learn about the issues facing medical cannabis and medical cannabis patients, as we've talked about earlier, and what they need from the representatives. And then there's a compassionate pledge on this website, which will give you the tools for advocacy and clearly articulate the needs and ask candidates to commit to medical cannabis policy positions and actions. So pretty comprehensive program here. And it's really, we all need to join forces and really hit our representatives.
I love this page, all kinds of different resources on it. And you basically give people a playbook to kind of go into battle with. I think it's fantastic. Amazing tools.
And, there are a lot of ways that people can get involved, but there's a lot over here. There's, after this campaign, compassionate campaign, candidate campaign. It's a word twister, tongue twister. After this compassionate campaign in the fall, ASA will be holding what we call a Validated Voices Summit. And what we do is we're going to be people who are able to come, and it will cost some money to get to DC, et cetera. They will have a lobby day on Capitol Hill. I did it last year. It was a lot of fun. It was way out of my comfort zone. I've never done it before. Americans for Safe Access set up the specific appointments with the specific reps that I was to meet. And you don't really meet with the actual congressmen or senators. You meet with their staffers, but their staffers are the ones who really funnel the information into them. So we went up to Capitol Hill and we sort of gave our information. And so this fall, it's going to be September 26th and 27th. We're going to be holding this Validated Voices campaign. So that's another way that people, our summit, we're calling it. And yeah, I just think, it's something, the more that our representatives hear that this is something we want, then we need to convert them. And I think actually they are converted. I think they just don't know enough. We're providing them with the tools and the information that they need.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So if I want to get a hold of you to kind of get involved, can folks
Yes.
reach out to you directly, Miss Faye?
Absolutely, and I can connect them with, the people at ASA. I can help them. Yes, absolutely. And the more we really need more people, it's a grassroots campaign organization, as most of them are. I know there's a lot of advocacy groups out there on behalf of cannabis, but we just need to let our voices be heard.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. So I very quickly have your Gmail up there for folks to
thank you.
jot down really quick and get a hold of you if they want to be a part of this initiative, which it sounds fantastic. Awesome. And we
Is
have the
there
website down here as well.
is there a way to track on the site here what candidates' stances are? For example, I know that Melissa Agar in Wisconsin is an advocate. Is there a list of people that are, of government officials that are advocates?
I'll have to look into that and find out for you. But I mean,
For
there's
both
definitely one.
those of us that are voting, it would be really
Yes,
helpful as a
yeah. Well,
resource. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I hope a lot of people are voting. But yeah, I it's something to connect you. Like if there's a finder, sort of,
Mhm.
where you can put in your zip code and and then sort of tell you who your representatives are. And then, you could either, contact them and ask them what their stance is, or you could sort of go onto their websites and see what their stance is. I know that we have at this point, because
Mhm.
we're sort of in a transitional phase. So, a lot of people are up for a lot of Senate seats. So until we know who wins these elections, we really haven't gotten into that. Because, like, I know in Maryland, for example, we have a Senate seat that's up for grabs, and so I could go and look on the campaign sites of the various candidates, but I don't. But Americans for Safe Access, I don't think a single candidate and what their position is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I found that their legislators here in Wyoming, I can only speak for Wyoming, they're really squirrely about holding them to a stance when it comes to hemp or marijuana, medical rec. What is your stance? I'm also the executive director for Wyoming Normal Foundation, which is the education side of the house. But I also help them, since I have a podcast, offered to open up the podcast platform to any legislator running for office. That I have an open door policy. I don't care if you're red, blue, purple. You can come on, and we have a set of questions. We're not going to sharpshoot you. They're very basic questions, and everybody gets asked the same questions to make it equal. I only had 3 candidates out of everyone who's running in Wyoming come on the podcast and willing to share their views and be on the record as far as their views on where they stand on cannabis, which is really kind of disappointing.
quite honestly, I don't think they know enough. And that's where we come in. They don't know enough to have a view. This is, what's going on in this country right now, and it's a little bit of a mess, as we know. But so, like, they have bigger fish to fry. And I feel like if we give them these talking points and show them, and like I said, there are one pagers and all kinds of stuff on the site. And, definitely go on the site and poke around. A lot of information. Like Holly and I were talking earlier, we just, there's too much for us to share right now. But I think they need education. So I've thought about, like, saying, hey, if you need an advisor, in this area, I've got this degree and, whatever. So, I mean, I happen to be lucky. Jamie Raskin, who is our representative, he's written and championed a lot of this for medics. I happen to be in a blue state. That really, I think it's a bipartisan issue, but at the same time, I think them are coming out and saying anything because of what their constituents might think. But it's a bipartisan issue. So, they need to, they literally need to be educated on this in this area. They're really not.
I totally agree with you 110%. Because we just had Delta 8 kicked out, and they said a no go. They call it closing the loop. So they closed the loop on Delta 8 here in Wyoming. So it's absolutely just CBD, CBN, nothing that gives you any kind of euphoria or that sort of thing, psychoactive. They totally ditched that out. But at the same time, people are interested in a medical cannabis. I think, what is it, 70% of Americans are okay with having a medical cannabis program. So they're not really listening to their constituents when it comes to this issue at all.
Right.
And as we get older, as the constituency gets older and we're more canna curious, and we see that the medicinal value of this, it is going to become more of an issue, I think. What do you think, Bill?
I agree. I'm shocked. I actually am pleasantly surprised you got 3 candidates on, because most of the time,
too.
Because candidates, a lot of times they don't want to be documented on that, because that doesn't give them the opportunity to backpedal. So I'm actually impressed you got 3 on. I think another problem is if you look at the age of our government and Supreme Court, I think we have many people that are sort of stuck in a rut with reefer madness. We went to a town board meeting the other day and had two people on the board that were 100% against it, but had no clue what they're talking about. They were asking us about that T8, what was it? Was not THC, TCP. We have TCP in our products. So yeah, I'm not sure what TCP is for that, but yeah, it was a very interesting thing. But if you look at the age even of our presidential candidates, previous, to switching, there's a big societal change that as the younger people are coming up, it will change. In fact, last year, for the first time, there were several polls that were taken that people between the ages of 18 and 44, for the first time ever in U.S. history, and this even is in Wisconsin, where we love our beer and alcohol, people between 18 and 44 preferred cannabis products over alcohol by 70%.
That's really amazing. The other thing is that I tried physicians, my own physicians offices, I try and bring up the medical cannabis and say, oh yeah, that's a gateway drug, which we know is not true. The other thing is the true medical cannabis, most often we're not trying to get people high. We're trying to give them the maximum amount of relief with the minimal amount of psychoactivity. Unless maybe it's a chemo patient and maybe they want a little bit of psychoactivity. But in general, that the goal is not getting people high.
Correct. Yeah, and there's so many advantages, and some of the challenges I could give, in my opinion, what the 3 challenges are. It's called the tobacco industry, big pharma, and alcohol. They're all terrified of what would happen when this legalizes. For every state that has converted to MedRec, do you know what industry gets hit the hardest and approximately what it costs them?
Alcohol.
No. It's big pharma, opioids.
Oh, yes, that makes sense. Yes, absolutely.
It costs them over $1 billion a year, is what I read on New Frontier data. It was like, well, no wonder they're fighting it. And the thing we're going to have to be careful of, with the infighting between the hemp and marijuana industry now, and the amount of money that goes from those 3 industries into lobbying and into the government, there's that fear of what happens when down the line, one of them or more than one of them steps in and takes over, because they have the money. So, that's something else that's concerning.
It's not a huge moneymaker, though, is what, some people say, like the cannabis industry is really not like regular traditional drugs. It doesn't make as much money, and they're going to want to come in and make isolated compounds, so yeah.
It'll be interesting. We will never have a dull moment in this industry.
Right.
At least
we are pioneers.
As we always say, we don't mind being on the cutting edge, but sometimes we get a little too close to the bleeding edge, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Well said, definitely, for sure. Hey, we are on Citizen Green TV, which is about veterans. So I like to take a couple of minutes midway through and give a tribute to the troops. So we're going to take a really quick break, tribute to the troops, and we'll come back and continue the conversation. So stay tuned. And we are back with a fantastic group of folks here having an awesome conversation about legalization and cannabis and medical cannabis and the future and candidates, all kinds of good stuff. So here towards the end of the show, what would you like to get out, Ms. Faye? What would you like to leave as a last impression?
Well, I didn't get a chance to give the statistics for veterans, and I don't know. Just real quickly, there are 1,000 active duty veterans who have committed suicide. 2% of veteran households support research into medical marijuana. 83% feel that the feds should legalize nationwide, and 82% want a federally legal treatment option. However, 22% actively use it because of the federal policy, and if they want to get their, VA treatment at the VA hospital, they have to get their treatment outside the VA hospital for it. Yeah. So I think that's really important for veterans to know. It's very helpful in post-traumatic stress disorder and also in pain relief. And Bill mentioned the opioids; it has reduced opioid use. So I think that's important to realize. And I really think that, the bottom line is we need to pass legislation and we need to get it right. And I believe the Americans for Safe Access have put a lot of time and thought and effort into, how this should be approached. and they have all kinds of tools on the website. You can actually join the Americans for Safe Access for only $35. And that's just like safeaccessnow.org/donate. And, that's not that much money if you think about it. And, that campaigning and lobbying takes money. And so we'd like people to also get involved. They can volunteer if they want. There's a space on there where they can put their name in to volunteer. We talked about the compassionate candidate campaign. So those are things that we'd like people to do, is really advocate, join, volunteer, do whatever you can.
Yes, absolutely. What a fantastic organization. I love to go on there and kind of check up on the different states and whatnot, because it really gives you a rundown. If you ever are traveling somewhere outside of your home state, you're taking a vacation, you're visiting family or whatever, you're just nosy. It's pretty much, I'm pretty much just nosy. So you can go and you can click on the different states. You can tell, it gives you a very detailed rundown of what is legal, what's not legal, what's friendly, what's not friendly. If you need to take your MedRec card with you, do they accept it, etc. It's just a fantastic resource. So highly recommend, if you're a nosy person like me, Americans for Safe Access is a wonderful website.
Well, yeah, and that's another accessibility issue. People can't take their meds across state lines.
Isn't that's ridiculous? It just sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. It's just like ridiculous. Any final thoughts, Mr. Bill, before we sign off?
No, you just caught me with an old MASH episode where Alan Alda's going, I can go in, I can go out. And I see someone at the state line going, here it is, going back and forth. Sorry, that's what I was cracking up about. So, no, I think it's a great resource. We actually even get this a lot on the hemp side. Just, hey, you know what, can I take these cannabinoids? Can I take this product across? And we always say, make sure you have your original packaging, because law enforcement, it's the cannabis plant. You can't tell by looking at it or smelling it if it's hemp or cannabis. So take your original packaging. If there's any type of dossier or anything that comes with the products when you buy it, I know we do that at our dispensary. We actually have a panel for law enforcement and for the post office, and document. And then the other thing we recommend is stay away from THCA, because it's legal to buy it, but as soon as you smoke it, it's illegal. So yeah, it's way over the point. So there's a lot of things that, if there's a resource on the website, that would be great to check out. We can refer people to that even.
Bill, you're doing a great job. You're really looking out for your customers, and I just wish all dispensaries were on the lookout for their folks and their customers, like your operation is. So hats off to you, sir.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for being a responsible dispensary.
Yeah, no, it's very important. I mean, especially since the way we entered it, for those of us that entered into the cannabis experience because of injury or pain or anxiety or not being able to sleep, it's very important that you get a consistent experience. It's very important, especially at my age. You're right. I'm not if we're going out drinking, I don't want to end up on the floor. It's just not that, it's not fun anymore. It's past that. So we're looking, and I'm not saying that, we have cannabis beverages that, yes, I'll enjoy a couple of beverages, but usually it's right before I go to bed, I'll crash it. So it's a whole different mentality. Just how do you get that education and that level of involvement to the entire population? And it's going to take a while. I mean, you've seen this in many, many industries where there's that whole education curve, and the early adopters that come in early, unfortunately, pave the way for everybody else to follow. So we're paving.
Well, Bill, that was one of my goals, was to get into dispensaries and do educational programs, and really, I thought that would be a really good way. And there's the money dried up. I spoke to dispensaries, they were all on it, and then all of a sudden it just kind of went away. So again,
yeah, it's a challenge.
It is. It's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is one other thing that I think we missed with the Schedule 3. If we do get pushed to Schedule 3, like it should, if not less, it also helps free up financing. Because right
Mhm.
now,
Yes.
even on the hemp side, FDIC had legalized depository and banking relationships back in August of 2019. Majority of the banks are still staying away from it because it's federally. It's even though it's federally legal, they're concerned that marijuana is not federally legal, and they're concerned about the compliance, the bookkeeping, and the record keeping that goes with it. There's very few banks that are doing that. But now that could be another area. Maybe we can talk offline after that, because maybe that's where the compliance committees, because we actually had our local bank started a hemp friendly program. And the first people we had through was we had the compliance committee come to our dispensary and gave them educational talk because they were looking for the information and help. So maybe there's a niche area that really can get kicked off faster.
I love talking to smart people. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's great that I am in the trenches with folks like you. So thank you both for coming on the show today. And until next time, folks, stay safe out there.
Same. Have a good one. Thank you much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Pleasure meeting you, Faye.
You all. Pleasure to meet you too. Be well.
Thank you.
Take care.